The former Lord of Cadnua and one-time Terrifier of Harbor Masters. If dockside tales are to be believed, you have not brought much good news of late. So, in addition to pirates, profiteers, and slavers, the Deadfire has a vengeful god roaming its waters? Good. Because the last thing the archipelago needs is another disaster tugging at the seams. He must be stopped. Anything can be stopped with sufficient force. The Valians won't lift a finger if it isn't to snatch a coin, and the Huana will barely do that much.
No? Tell it to the water shapers who washed your stranded boats from sandbars, Hasanui.
Success in trade has been quite elusive for the Rauataians, but the bitterness suits you well.
No one takes charge to solve the big problems. But perhaps we could work together to our mutual benefit. Look around. Deadfire's full of fertile, temperate islands. Except for Umbra's mortar. It's largely free of rough weather. Yet much of it is uninhabited. Itinerant tribes drift between some of the islands, and smugglers and slavers cluster around the rest. It's a waste. Imagine what this place could be, with well-guarded shipping routes. How many Rauataians we could feed with plantations here. If you're chasing the god who's stomping this place into the ground, then we have a common goal. And if you're going to survive here, then you could use an ally. The disaster at Hasongo remains a key concern. We rely on the port there to ship food back to Rauatai. That's on hold until you investigate. Short of that, there are other matters that demand attention. Atsura, our Grand Secretary, has a plan that would make use of your unusual talents. His office is downstairs. He can tell you more. It happened a year into my first command. We were chasing pirates along Rauatai's south coast, and they landed a shot right next to our magazine. A lucky hit. I ran below. The fire was already spreading and making for our powder stores. I smothered what I could with my uniform, pulled the rest away with my own hands. There's a cost to every victory, and the win goes to those willing to make a sacrifice. I'll bet you already know a thing or two about that, and if you don't, Deadfire will teach you soon enough. Hazatoa, Atsura and I usually have a game running, and this one's been going on for over a month and a half. Atsura's good at misdirection, but I've got a mind for the long game. You look like you've come with a purpose.
I see your plan.
I always forget that part. Say, you're the Watcher of Cadnua, aren't you? I've never met anyone famous before, except the Hasanui. She yells at me sometimes. Oh, all the time. Where's my white leaf? Stop daydreaming. So bore me, if you lose the ledgers again, I'll have you clean the latrines. All this time, I didn't realize she knew my name. It's just, this is my first time away from the rough country. I'd heard there were thick, green forests and sandy beaches without a storm in sight, but I never imagined this. You must have traveled lots, seen all sorts of amazing places. I love Rauatai, but it's hard to go a week without seeing storms, or hearing about mudslides burying a village somewhere. I really wish I could, but my supplies are for the Royal Deadfire Company and our allies. Hasanui's orders. Maybe if you impress her or Atsura, they could make an exception.
I'll see to it.
You see those awful verses by the kitchen?
They weren't that bad.
Rhyming Hazanui with kablooey?
I can't think of anything else that goes with Hazanui.
Watcher Nui, the Lord of Cadnua. I'm not one for ostentation, but your remarkable display at Queen's birth suggests that you are an individual with skills, not mere style. I am Atsura, Grand Secretary of the Royal Deadfire Company. Rawatai has long maintained trade interests in the region. While our homeland is rich in saltpeter, the violent climate and rocky soils make it a poor source for most other basic staples. It's my business to look after the mainland's interests here. The Huana and the Valians decorate their latrines with gilding and coral, and the Principe cling to faded riches.
A most uncomfortable latrine, I say.
I place little value in fancy trappings. That is a Valian frivolity. Leave it to them to observe a substance that occurs nowhere else on Aora, and immediately set about pulverizing it for profit.
And leave it to a Rawatayan to ignore the dozens of other uses Valian animancers have discovered for luminous Adra just in the last few years.
I do not think in years, Aimika. I think in centuries. Yet the Valians toy with luminous Adra like a child who has discovered her mother's pistol. For now. But what will ultimately win out? The Valians' drive for innovation, or their hunger for wealth? We know too little about luminous Adra to understand the consequences of ripping it out. Perhaps you can help me keep them from doing more harm. The demand for luminous Adra has sent the Valian Trading Company into a frenzy. Their expeditions grow too bold, and their officers too greedy. Worse, their rapid expansion attracts pirates and threatens the outlying Huana tribes. This risks souring the Kahanga royals against all foreign involvement, but you can curtail their growth. I mean no disrespect to your personal friends and allies, but consider that the Valian Trading Company is about as unified as the Huana tribes, and the priorities of its officers do not always align with the long-term interests of the republics.
I do not expect you to understand the intricacies of the company, Grand Secretary. But the Dukes have representatives on the Songreta Mea Compressa for exactly that reason.
The Dukes are just as divided. Each schemes for the advancement of his own little fiefdom over the rest of the republics. A dangerous mix, especially with the Valian Trading Company becoming a power of its own. Put enough food before a dog, and it will eat itself sick. The Valian Trading Company's leadership acts on behalf of its investors. Their goal is a quick profit, no matter the eventual costs. Fortunately, there is an easy remedy. The Valians have sent an expedition to Pococahara, a storm-wrecked island believed to house a vein of luminous. I hear you accomplished an incredible feat in restoring the luminous Adra near Port Maje. If your abilities allow you to do that, then perhaps you are also capable of the opposite. Find the luminous Adra at Pococahara. Render it unusable to the Valians. This should encourage them to develop the resources they have, rather than reaching for more. Because governors like Clario are a rare breed. Most of the Valian administrators care little for the well-being of the Huana. If the Valians claim Poco Kahara, it is the locals who will truly suffer deeply. But if a small sacrifice here will discourage the Valians from further ventures, then it is a worthwhile risk. For all their faults, they don't lack imagination. I'm confident they know of our intentions. I do not have the precise location of Poco Kahara, but the tribe on the nearby island of Tikawara could probably help. I suggest starting there. Now, what else can I do for you? It's a trading post, of course. Rawatai is rich in saltpeter, copper, and a few other profitable minerals. We generally trade for food and timber, which grow poorly in the rough country. The Valians have become aggressive competitors in recent years, but our ships were plying the seas long before the Republic's declared independence. We learned the value of defending our goods and ships long ago. Clear skies. It's a trading post, of course. Anything worth building is worth protecting. How do you mean that? It comes from years of practice. It's the only way I've learned to beat Karanui at Hazatoa.
Me neither. That's why I leave
Watcher,
ethics
if you have
to
a
the War
moment,
College.
I'd like to tell you something. I appreciate that you have been helping me, helping the Republics. I know that you have an important purpose in the Deadfire, and that purpose is not the same as ours. Still, I hope you can see the potential the Republics have to do good here. Agrasima, Kores.
Criticism is easier than creation.
Ah, I see your plan.
The Ranga Nui leads us, but he represents all of Rao Tai.
Then must he put his name on everything? Price share is simpler.
Could I have a moment of your time? I know someone who works in this tower. An animancer named Giacomo. I'd like to see him if we could. Agrasima. It should not take long. I have not seen him in many years and I wanted to thank him.
You feeling all right, Pallegina? You sure you don't mean yell at him?
When I was a girl, he visited me in the academy. He was studying godlike. Studying, he found something in me. Something that resonated like a chime when he held an instrument near me. He said it was like this for all godlike. Different chimes resonating for different types. But you are not godlike. In any case, he told me it was what was causing my body to change. I begged him to remove it. He refused at first, saying it was impossible. When I told him I would kill myself if he didn't, he said he would try.
Mere as feathers. In the tribes, you would have been beloved and taught to cherish this, not cast it away like a curse.
I don't expect you to understand, but I was 12. My body was changing in many ways. Being the only girl, the only godlike girl at the academy, was unbearable. Giacomo was not able to remove the chime, but he was able to sever it. When it happened, I blacked out. I did not wake for 2 weeks. The Brotherhood ejected him from the academy for ruining their pet godlike. They assumed I would die. I did not. Over time, I lost most of my feathers. The shape of my nose changed. It was not enough to make me fully Kalbandra, but it was enough to keep me from wanting to die. When I looked in a mirror, what I saw was not a godlike, not something to be paraded around. It was me. No! You do not decide who I am. Helia does not decide who I am. The Brotherhood does not decide who I am. I decide who I am. Giacomo respected that. He respected me. Without, if we can speak to him inside the tower, I would be grateful.
I'll see to it.
Come closer to the altar. Come inside. The temple welcomes all to worship, most especially you. I ask only for no talking. Not until we pay our respects to Bereth, to Rikuhu. Let us pray.
Silent prayer? Where are the songs, I say? Did you learn this from Valians?
Ugh. I practice extremely silent prayer. Not praying. It works just as well and takes less time.
Again, I ask that you please fall silent for prayer. Deity of life and death, the endless devourer who encompasses all existence, hear this prayer, this voice chiming. I beseech you, Kohopa and Tangaloa, to ready this shell for sucking. Purify my soul in preparation for the coming of the next cycle. Digest all of my devotion. Swallow my sorrows, even the smallest swell, so I can be spit on the morrow. And Rikuhu, Bereth, my god and goddess both, the eels that churn in ceaseless cycle, the new and the next and... All right. I will address your inquiries best as I can. So ask the same. Your word, Bereth. Our word, Rikuhu. We worship the twin deal, the cyclic connection of the overworld and the underworld. Life and death. Life is Kohopa, and Tangaloa is death. Born starving, they devoured all living things, swelling larger each. When they'd swallowed all of existence, they tried to eat each other next. Now all things pass through their entrails. The end of one enters the mouth of the next, from the underworld to the overworld and back. Again and again, under the temple, carved in the mountain's caverns, lies an extraordinary maze of catacombs. So I've read. They're the hanging sepulchres, burial place for ancient Wana chieftains. The bodies are protected by Bereth's best, roaming, always. Plus, the ways sealed by the deity itself. The dead, with their souls, they roam still. The ones who were chosen by Bereth. Not everyone's born so blessed. Sometimes, instead, you've got to die for it. End of the turn. I'm nearing it. Been working hard, preparing for weeks. You know, to die. But first, I've got to leave guidance for my apprentice, the next in the cycle. Chosen to lead. Been wasting away for months. Can't say it's been easy, dying so soon. I thought about stopping a few times. Maybe you can see. I'm no death godlike. Bereth bestowed not one in my generation with a chime. Not the next, neither. A flawed messenger like me can't open the crypts. So my best chance is to die. Liturgies, instructions for ritual preparations, when and how, sermons, some histories too. All of this, it's our knowledge has gleaned through centuries of service. Now, I've got to leave it all behind for the next disciple, better. The timing's getting tighter, and there is one thing before the end. Something only one touch by Bereth can do. Drafts mercurial. Getting my heart cut out for to kill me when the time's right. The coil resonates, but it's weak. You could unseal the way, but you'd die inside, I think. My chance would be lost then. Lost with your remains. Not just anyone can escape the hanging sepulchres. Alive. Maybe you're stronger than you look. Like me. That's a good sign, I think. I'd best not let this chance pass. There's a sacred text. The eulogy to Isaiah. It's been buried in the catacombs beneath the temple for centuries, next to his champions. I need it. Of course, the tombs, they only open to the dead, or those bearing Bereth's chime. It never was added to the tomes, but it holds the final clues for my death. It's my best chance. I prayed for decades, night to day and night again. Now, here you are, just in time. Means Bereth sent you to see to my success. You're my best chance, or only, maybe. Take the coil. It'll open the crypts. I'll tell you what I can. He's no Juana, nor a death godlike neither, but he was a high priest of Bereth. His hair was a Diran, a hunter, chasing the undead 200 years ago. Read somewhere, one tome, he sailed to the Deadfire for a weapon, abhorrent to Bereth. Said the blade held a power most. Isaiah fought hard for it, won the blade, but suffered grievous wounds. Bereth kept him alive till he could make it to the temple's catacombs. His champions were the ones who wrote his eulogy. Later, they were buried in the sepulchres too. You've got to go outside, on the lower walkway. Doors sealed up tight, though. Priests before me, all death godlikes, could open it. Door requires a coil, resonating with Bereth's chime. But I haven't met a death godlike in my time.